Welcome back to Wittenberg Academy's Latin 3 course. This is lesson 87, continuing with the infinitive. On page 170. In English, we frequently use the infinitive to express purpose. Do not use it so in Latin, as in he is coming to town to sell his horse. To sell is not rendered by the infinitive in Latin. There are several ways of expressing purpose, one of which is given in lesson 83. The fuller treatment is found down the road in lesson 112. Here are the uses of the infinitive in Latin on page 171. So not for purpose, but as in the following ways. As a substantive, where it may appear as subject, object, or predicate nominative. So basically used as a noun. So as we had last time, to sail is a difficult business. B, to complete the meaning of an incomplete verb. This is called the complementary infinitive. Again, we have this in English. I don't know how to do something. I am not able to do that. So many verbs simply take an infinitive to complete their idea. And C, in place of the indicative after verbs of saying, thinking, knowing, and the like. This is called the infinitive in indirect discourse. Again, we have this in English. I think them to be rotten children, right? So we do that with thinking, or I say, or he said them to be, bad people. It's always the accusative noun with the infinitive. So I think him to be a good student. We have the same instruction in English. The accusative, or in English the objective case, him, goes with to be as its verb after a main verb of thinking or knowing or so forth. Section 4. The infinitive, generally the present infinitive, may be used as the subject of a verb, as the object, and as a predicate nominative. When so used, we consider it neuter. It can be so used only in the nominative and the accusative, the other cases being supplied by the gerund and the supine, as ambulare est gratum, to walk is pleasant. Cupit ambulare, he wishes to walk. Videre est credere, to see is to believe. The complementary infinitive, the infinitive, particularly the present, is often used to complete the meaning of certain verbs. This is called the complementary infinitive, as nemo effugere potest. No one is able to escape. The infinitive is used after verbs which mean can, will, wish, ought, resolve, endeavor, dare, fear, etc. Basically, every time you'd use the infinitive after a verb in English. They overlap quite a bit. Predicate agreement. The predicate noun or adjective used after a complementary infinitive must agree with the subject of the main verb. As doctior fieri studebam, I was anxious to be more learned. So, I was anxious to become, so there's the infinitive, fieri. I was anxious to become doctior, more learned. And so, since it's I who is speaking, and I is always either a boy or a girl, doctior, there has to be nominative, singular, masculine or feminine to go with whomever may be speaking. Okay. So, what to actually put down on a card, maybe the chief uses of the infinitive there on page 171 is something to remind yourself of. But really for English speakers, this will come pretty naturally. These are complementary uses of the infinitive in English, as we'll see from the translations. Carolus te cum Gregorio et Henrico ludera cupit. Carolus te cum Gregorio et Henrico ludera cupit. Okay, so Charles wishes, Carolus cupit, wishes what? To play, ludera. So there again, as in English, the word for wish takes an infinitive after it. He wishes to play. Carolus wishes to play with you, Gregory, and Henry. 2. Liberos omnes domi jam esse spero. Liberos omnes domi jam esse spero. So spero, I hope, liberos omnes, all the children, esse, to be home now. Okay. So this is a case where perhaps it doesn't line up with English as much. I wish that something is what we would say in English. But I hope the children to be at home, or I wish the children to be at home right now. But again, you can always look for this because you will often see accusative nouns that will have verbs which are infinitives. And that's exactly what we see here. Libros omnes goes with essa. So in your head, this is something that should, it's one of the possibilities in Latin. Accusative nouns can have infinitives for verbs in these, not in main clauses, but in dependent clauses. 3. Sane dolui meas litteras tibi tempora reditas non essa. Sane dolui meas litteras tibi tempora reditas non essa. So dolui, there's our main verb. Your main verb is always an indicative verb. It has to be in the indicative mood. So I have been sorry, I was pained. Sane, a great deal. I was greatly pained. And again, if you're having to look up these words, you didn't know what sane meant, you had to look it up in the vocabulary in the back, add that to your vocabulary card. I've been greatly grieved. Meos litteras. Now there's that accusative. And again, it doesn't quite fit, does it? I was grieved, and now something in the accusative. Grieved does not take as its object a noun, right? I kicked the ball. Transitive verb takes a direct object. I was grieved doesn't take as its object a noun. It's an intransitive verb. You can just say I was grieved. But what it takes as its object, as it were, is a phrase, a thought, an idea. I was grieved that my letters reditas tibi tempora non essa. I was grieved that my letters have not come back to you in a timely fashion, tempore, on time. So reditas non essa, that's a perfect active infinitive. I am grieved that my letters did not come back to you. Right? Have not come to have. Again, we don't use the infinitive for this construction in English in every case. But I was sad my letters not to have returned to you on time. So in English, we obviously use participles or different noun phrases for this. That's just something that should be, it's one of the possibilities in Latin. In a dependent clause, accusative noun will take an infinitive as its verb to make a verbal idea. 4. Saipa cogitabamus trans flumen hortos parare. Saipa cogitabamus trans flumen hortos parare. Often we were thinking about, or we were planning to prepare gardens across the river. 5. Sperant adolescentes omne se Dio victuros essa. Sperant adolescentes omne se Dio victuros essa. So, omnes adolescentes, all young men hope Dio, at long last, or someday, to be victors themselves. Se victurus essa. So all young men hope that they themselves will one day be victors. Okay? So there's your future infinitive, future active infinitive, after a verb of hoping. All right. We'll get to more of these indirect statements in the next chapter. But for now, if you needed any new vocabulary from this one, knock that out on your cards and study it. And you can perhaps just read through or review if any of these uses of the infinitive are fuzzy for you. Review the sentences. But this is something that can really only be gained with experience in translating. So one step at a time.